poll conducted by USA Today and Pew Research Centre showed that a majority of Americans today feel that the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan did not achieve their goals in combating terrorism. Meanwhile, Jordan is increasingly affected by extremist groups and must work with other countries to put an end to Salafist-jihadist activism on the part of Jordanian nationals. Let's learn more. An article by Rami Khouri features in the Daily Star and discusses the US public opinion on the war in Iraq. Khouri starts by saying every once in a while, in the extraordinary land of the United States, developments reveal the enduring wisdom and the profound idiocy in the society. A poll conducted by USA Today and Pew Research Centre showed that a majority of Americans today feel that the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan did not achieve their goals, which is probably an important reason why the public in recent months has been hesitant to use force in Syria or against Iran. Khouri looks at Stephen Hadley, who wrote in the Wall Street Journal a commentary on January the 31st. Stephen Hadley said Americans should be proud of what they achieved in Iraq, which he sees as a country that can still become an example of a credible democracy in the Arab world. Rami Khouri adds it seems more logical and truthful to note that the Anglo-American war that Bush and Tony Blair unleashed, Khouri said the war on terror on Iraq was a seminal and enduring cause of many of the security threats and sectarian tensions that plague much of the Middle East today. And into an interesting observation, the Daily Star columnist adds the expanding domain of Salafist Takfiri militants and terrorists across Iraq, Syria, and Lebanon received its biggest boost when the American-led war wiped away the Iraqi regime and its state security structure, brutal as they were, and allowed al-Qaeda-linked extremists to set up shop in Iraq and spread from there to other countries. The article estimates today that tens of thousands of trained and experienced Salafist Takfiri fighters are operating in the West Asia region because Bush, Blair and foolhardy and often ignorant officials such as Hadley, Vice President Dick Cheney and the then National Security Advisor Condoleezza Rice and others went to war on false premises and turned Iraq into a kind of wasteland where terrorists thrived. These reckless officials lied then about why they attacked Iraq, and they continue to lie today. The USA Today and Pew Research Centre poll published a few days ago showed that a 52% majority of Americans felt that the US had mostly failed to achieve its goals in Iraq, which is a reversal of the 56% majority that has said in November 2011, as the US was leaving that country, that the US has mostly succeeded. Rami Khouri concludes his article by saying the American people must decide if they will ever hold accountable in a court of law those senior American officials who offered lies, deceit and wasteful war to their traumatized people in 2001 and 2003. And he finally said, "It is good to see that the American people have matured and come to their senses while the Bush administration officials continue to peddle their junk ideology and emotional wrecks." And as the Syrian war rages to the north, Rana al-Sabbagh writes an article on Jordan in AlMonitor, which is increasingly affected by extremist groups and must work with other countries to put an end to Salafist-jihadist activism on the part of Jordanian nationals. A stone's throw from the border villages in the north, the brigades of Jabhat al-Nusra and the Islamic State of Iraq and al-Sham ISIS wander across the borders between Syria provinces and the Iraqi province of Anbar on the border with Jordan, setting their eye on the Levant. Sabbagh asks how will Jordan and neighboring countries deal with these scenarios, such as the potential creation of an emirate in southern Syria or eastern Iraq by ISIS or Jabhat al-Nusra, or the possible return of hundreds of militants to their countries of origin in the event stability is restored in Syria. However, Sabbagh adds the fight against these forces of Takfiri extremist groups that are fomenting sectarian discord amongst Muslim and other religious communities will only be viable through the establishment of a regional and international system operating at different levels and axes with protective, defensive, operational and intelligence strategies. And during the past 6 months, Jordan's security apparatuses have been taking action to alert friendly countries and strategic allies, meeting security strategy makers and implementers in Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain and the UAE. The AlMonitor piece presents remarkable facts that the Jordanians currently constitute the most prominent al-Qaeda leaders in Syria, and they have already occupied these positions in al-Qaeda in Iraq. There are also Jordanian leaders in both Jabhat al-Nusra and ISIS, the most prominent Salafist-jihadist theorists in the world, and influential members of the Salafi-jihadist factions in Syria are also Jordanians. Today, the government of Jordan is considering reviewing its curriculum and launching overlapping programs that focus on youth. Schools and universities programs will focus on communities that provide an adequate climate for jihad, including marginalized camps and areas where poverty, ignorance and deprivation and injustice prevail. Sabah adds that finding and implementing extremist ideas became easy in the midst of the political chaos that beset the region and the conflict of regimes and apparatuses on the Syrian arena. And she concludes the alternative is to impede the networks created by militant groups, as well as the cross-border danger that they constitute. And second, Jordan should be the obstacle to the communication between extremist groups of North Africa and their counterparts in other countries in the region. And for more updates, visit us on Levant.tv. Thanks for watching and bye for now.